Your Miami Dolphins are no longer in the hunt. Their playoff hopes are over thanks to Monday night's 28-15 loss at frigid Pittsburgh. What can the Dolphins accomplish in these final three games? We're going to talk about that today. What's going on, everybody? I'm Chris Perkins, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist and your host for Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. That is David Furones, who is going to try to talk over all this noise going on in the background with my condo construction. Furones, you're still in frigid Pittsburgh, man. When are you making it back to the warmth? It's sunny down here. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful day. It's wintertime.
What are you talking about? I'm over here underwater. Don't you see my background? I got the sun right over there above the water.
This is a deep dive, right?
Yeah. Exactly. No, but I already always got to talk over you in the media workroom when you're just yapping about who knows what. So I'm used to it. I'm more. Oh wow, yeah, it really is a lot of construction.
It is loud.
But yeah, this is what you take the early flights. I get out later. We stagger our travel.
Right.
And then we work as a team there, so we're always ready. When someone's in the air, then the other person's ready to pounce on some news.
That's it, baby. We got it working. We got the system working. We want to say what's up to everybody who's watching on YouTube. We always thank you for joining us. We invite you to leave a thought, question, comment on the live chat, the best place to get intelligent Dolphins talk. We want to remind you, if you miss any part of this show, you can catch the podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And we would like to invite you to sign up for our weekly newsletter, The Fan Splash, which you can do by scanning the QR code, which will be shown on your screen. All right, this is going to be a quickie. Mike McDaniel speaks at 2. Furones has a flight to catch. We've both got work to do. So today we are going to talk about your thoughts on the 2025 season. How would you describe this year? Disappointing, potential, some possible solutions. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what should happen with Tua Tagovailoa in these last 3 games. Should he start? Should Zach Wilson get a shot? Should Quinn Ewers get a look? And we will also talk about your expectations for 2026. Do you think the Dolphins should make the playoffs? Is that a reasonable expectation? As we always say around here, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. There we go. By the way, we're going to miss the Furones bonus today. I hate to do that, but...
Oh!
There it is. We didn't miss it at all.
We'll just make the whole show a Furones bonus.
There we go. Yeah, you're here. That's the bonus. That's the bonus right here, baby. All right. That's it. I like it. All right, Furones, let's describe the 2025 season. I understand it's not over. I understand that they could finish, with 9 wins. They could finish with 6 wins. And there's probably a big difference between your 2 outcomes in both of those scenarios. Right now, what I would say is it's been a disappointing season because maybe I had this team overrated. I thought it was a 9-win team. I thought you had enough talent to win 9 games, which they still could do. They could still be a 9-win team, but this is the earliest a Mike McDaniel team has been eliminated from playoff contention. What would you say? I say disappointing right now with 3 games left. How would you characterize this season, Furones?
Yeah, disappointing's a good word to use. This franchise is just going backwards in every year of Mike McDaniel's tenure. So, I mean, yes, your second year was better than your first. You had it was 11-6. They were vying for the AFC East crown, and then they blew that 3-game lead with 5 weeks remaining that everyone knows about. And then ultimately had to go on the road in the wild card game in Pittsburgh. But that was 11-6 after 9-8, barely getting to the playoffs. But you're talking about teams that were 9-3, 8-3 one year, 9-3 the next year, going into December and the home stretch and having a chance at really making some noise. And then those teams just fell off. Now, back-to-back seasons of teams that really last year went very similar to this one. Aside from it's not any contributing factor that Tua was unhealthy. He missed all those games due to concussion in 2024. He's been healthy this year. He just hasn't played up to snuff, and he's leading the league in interceptions, and which he has now sole possession of that lead after throwing another bad interception to Asante Samuel of all people, St. Thomas Aquinas product, who the Dolphins were maybe looking at, but he had the whole neck injury in the offseason, and now he's intercepting a pass on the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. But yeah, it's 3 weeks out. The Dolphins are eliminated. You look at last year; they made that run, that surge to get into the final week and have a chance going into Week 18. One that never materialized because the Chiefs were never going to really play that game against the Denver Broncos. So the Dolphins never really had a chance. But it's been steps backward, and also, it is a contributing factor that the AFC was just tougher to break this year because the Dolphins, they were looking at winning that Week 18 game last year would have gotten them to 9-8. So the Dolphins can still reach that record. They still had a chance at 10-7 before Monday night. So it's just also a matter of it's just tougher in the AFC to break through this season. But a lot of questions because this is not what you signed up for in terms of. This is our expectations. I had 9-8. I think you had the same thing in preseason predictions, but it's just telling that window of real contention closed, and then it's looking like a transition period with maybe some possibilities of you found some things with a new identity, with the physicality, the run game. You have some promising rookies potentially that you can groom, but it's just those days of trying to compete for a playoff, real playoff run, like in 2023, those days were gone, and it started when they had all those players flee in free agency at the start of 2024.
Yeah, it's really been the McDaniel era has been disappointing from the standpoint of you thought that they were going to make a move somehow, not necessarily win a Super Bowl, but you thought this team was going to win some playoff games. They had accumulated the best talent that they had in 20 years, and you still don't see any result from this. 2 playoff berths in 4 years, that's not good enough. Before we move on, let's say what's up to some of the folks out there. Roger Allman, Fitzgrass, Tim Curry, Dead Streak, Rob, let's see, who else is out here? Will Vasquez, Billy Batson Marvell, Comrade checking in from Scotland once again, Bigote 1775, Eric Rivera. There are some comments on here. Ugg says, build a new stadium in Yeehaw Junction and change the name to Yeehaw Junk Fins. I like that. Pete's Takes, what's
you
up?
Like
Danny
that?
Martin.
No one likes that. What are you talking about?
Right, that's a good comment. That's funny.
Okay, the comment. All right.
Yes. Look, anything with Yeehaw Junction is funny, right? I mean, come on. I got to give him credit for that.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Furones. Thank you. It's the Christmas season. You got to laugh, or else you're going to cry, right? Tim Corey
Dolphins
says,
give everyone plenty to cry about. Trust me.
Exactly. Tim Corey says, "I'm ready to start following another team after the decades of poor personnel decisions." Let me ask you this, Furones. What do you think the crowds are going to be like for the Cincinnati and Tampa home games, considering these last few home games, we had seen some crowd unrest. We had seen some rounds of boos. We had seen some planes flying overhead. We had seen some empty seats. What do you think these last 2 home games, crowd-wise, are going to look like?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's still the NFL. NFL is the king among American sports leagues. So you have the NFL product in your city, then people are going to come out. So yeah, sure. It's not like tickets are going to be at a premium. I'm sure if you look on StubHub that the pricing on the secondary market is crashing, declining. It's not going to be your typical when you're really in the hunt in a December playoff chase type of crowd. But hey, fans who want to enjoy some football and who just like watching the Dolphins, who are always going to check in on the Dolphins on Sunday, they'll be out there. And I'm sure everyone who's extremely frustrated, as much as you are the day after the game, you're still give it a week's time, and you're still going to be right back in front of the TV watching this team when they play the Bengals. So, but yeah, probably some pockets of empty seats, but still a decent crowd that'll be into it. that'll be booing if the offense is going 3-and-out and Tua's throwing turnovers. That'll be cheering if Devon Achane in the run game is just pounding the Bengals and he's scoring touchdowns. If Waddle's in the end zone, if the defense is forcing turnovers. So, yeah, I expect it'll be a mix.
Yep. All right, Billy Batson, I got it. Billy Batson, I got that. Pete's takes. I'm not afraid to read you, Pete. Fire Nerd Boy, cut Tua, trade soft Waddle, and all Tua defending journalists, columnists, and podcasters. I sure hope you guys can cover another team. You ruined us by begging Ross to pay Tua. How about that? Yeah. We will use that to go into our next segment. What about Tua?
Good transition.
What should happen with Tua? Listen, Mike McDaniel conceivably is still coaching for his job. He's got 6 wins here, 6-8. The next loss guarantees him back-to-back losing seasons, which the Dolphins haven't had since 2018, 2019. The last year of Adam Gase, the first year of Brian Flores in the middle of the rebuild. And so, Furones, I think that Mike McDaniel is going to want to win. Tua gives them the best chance to win, not Zach Wilson, not Quinn Ewers. I think that Tua definitely starts, I would say, the next 2 games. I don't know what's going to happen in that finale at New England. What do you think happens with Tua? I'll say this, if any quarterback gets the first shot between Zach and Quinn, I think Zach Wilson should get the first shot. What do you think should happen to Tua, and what do you think would happen if Tua does not start?
Yeah, the question was posed to Mike McDaniel post-game last night on whether he'll consider Quinn Ewers starting, who was the QB3, who was third string. So I understand because he's the rookie, and you kind of – a lot of people figure, well, we already know what Zach Wilson is from the Jets days. Now, I talked to him recently and wrote a story when he was going back to the Meadowlands to face the Jets, and he feels he has grown so much since those times, and we haven't really seen him play any meaningful snaps since then because he didn't play at all as a third-string quarterback in Denver last year with Bo Nix healthy all year, and you've only seen him come in at the end of blowout games one way or the other, either Dolphins getting blown out or Dolphins blowing out an opponent. So you really haven't seen him yet. So I think I agree with you. If you do move off of Tua at the end of the season, just to see what you got, that's not saying it would be a permanent benching or that the franchise is ultimately done with Tua. I think that'll still be determined in the offseason. But if you do just for the final 3 games, I think you go to Zach Wilson first, give him a chance, and then depending on how that game goes, because he is the backup quarterback, he is QB2. I think you go to him first, and then depending on how that goes, then maybe Quinn Ewers would get a shot either in the finale. But I don't see it happening for this week, at least. I mean, it's possible. Maybe in a couple hours' time, Mike McDaniel does shock people with some announcement when he speaks today. He wasn't ready to cross that bridge yet when he was asked post-game about that topic. It was fresh off a loss. The Dolphins were still in the hunt as of that moment until they were officially eliminated at the end of that game. But I could see it. And then as far as Tua's long-term future, I think this season he has given the Dolphins every opportunity, every reason to move off of him. The only problem is you still have that contract smacking you in the face. So especially if Mike McDaniel is brought back, because Stephen Ross likes the process that he has brought through this 4-game win streak, through showing how players were still receptive to his coaching, that the team wasn't lost amid the early season struggles and the 1-6 and 2-7, and basically already being out of the playoff race at that point, even though they remained in the hunt in the hunt graphics for this later stage of the season, despite the very slim odds. Then I lost my train of thought there, but it's totally conceivable. It's totally conceivable that the Dolphins do move off of him, but it's just that contract makes it difficult. And if Mike McDaniel's returning, then his sort of tenure here has been centered around building up Tua. He was the one pounding the table for Tua to return and have that contract extension, have the franchise give him that contract extension. Chris Greer is the one to go, largely, I think, off of that, because then once you pay the quarterback the big money, then your hands are tied as far as being able to dish out other contracts. So, yeah, he's given them the reasons, but that contract is still difficult. And I could see Ross just saying, if we're running it with McDaniel, then you can run it with Tua again. Because if you move off of him, it's really difficult to build more of a roster and even bring in a veteran quarterback in free agency, because you just don't have the salary cap space to do it from the cap penalties from releasing Tua.
So many places to go with this. Number one, Steve Ross should not make the fans pay for his mistake. Pay Tua his $99 million and get him out of town. Don't make the fans sit here and watch another year of mediocrity, having to pay for season tickets, having to pay for concessions and all of this kind of stuff. That's your mistake, Steve Ross. You take that financial hit. Don't pass it on to the fans. The other thing is, when you're, by the way, Dave Hyde wrote a column today saying that it's time for Tua to go. So that's where he stands. I stand in the same place. I've been a proponent of take a broom to the organization. Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, Tua. I thought among the three of them, Greer was the best at his job. I'm not saying that Greer should still be there. I'm not saying that Greer is a Hall of Famer. I'm saying that Chris Greer gave you the best talent you had in 20 years, and the other two guys couldn't make it work. That's Chris Greer's job, is to get talent. He did that. The other two couldn't make it work. Here's another thing on that topic. When you talk about Zach Wilson, Furones, do you have any faith, or let me ask you this, where do you think Zach Wilson, the former number one first-round pick, belongs when you look at former first-round picks? Like, is he a first-round starter like Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold? Could he be a first-round quality backup like the job we saw Mac Jones do out in San Francisco when Brock Purdy was injured? Or do you think his days are numbered? I think he should get the shot in the Dolphins situation to be the reclamation project of the Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield ilk.
Yeah, I see it that way too, and we don't know yet. We've seen small spurts. I know his training camp in preseason left something to be desired. Still, he was being coached a different way, so he was learning some new things under Darrell Bevell and Mike McDaniel and offensive coordinator Frank Smith. So, yeah, and this is why Mike chose Zach Wilson, right? Because the Dolphins went the route of him as the backup quarterback, a young player who had been through a lot his first with his first team in the NFL as a highly drafted prospect who didn't pan out in a very difficult media market in New York. And so you brought him in because you saw the raw skills that you believed that you could coach and mold into something like some of the stories like the Sam Darnolds where you see in their second spot, even Daniel Jones earlier this season before he got hurt, what he was doing with the Colts. One of those stories where, all right, in a new setting, now that guy who had that talent that you liked in the draft, you can mold him into something. That's why you got him as the backup quarterback. That's why you didn't go with a Joe Flacco or a Jimmy Garoppolo type of backup, like a veteran who could be solid in spot duty if Tua were to get hurt, because that's what everyone was kind of clamoring for in the offseason. And you didn't go that route. You went with this reclamation project. So this would be Mike McDaniel's chance to prove himself right in that decision, because Zach Wilson was the direct calculated target that the Dolphins chose. So if not this moment, then why was Zach Wilson the choice, right? It would be just so that you maybe have someone that you could build for the future and show that you have something with him in this exact event where Tua has not been playing up to par, and you're considering moving off of him.
Let me ask you this, Furones, and let me throw this out to our viewers also. How much do you think, when we're talking about Tua, how much do you think Tyreek's absence is a factor here? Because Tua struggled pre-Tyreek. He thrived with Tyreek. he's struggling post Tyreek. So maybe he needs Tyreek more than he thought he needed Tyreek. Here's another thing also. Let's go to the Mike McDaniel standpoint. I've said that this organization has failed Tua. And I don't think that Tua is any Hall of Fame quarterback who has been done an injustice here. What I think is that Tua needs help. And this organization, Mike McDaniel specifically, thought that his offense and his genius could take Tua to a different level. And I say this, Furones, that when the Dolphins have gone to alternate offenses the past 2 years, they've thrived, right? Last year they went to the dink and dunk and they finished 6-3. This year they go primarily to a run offense. They win 5 out of 6. I think that if Mike McDaniel comes back next season, Steve Ross must insist that he moves away from that big play passing offense. I mean, let's face it, Tyreek probably won't be here anyway. You don't have to totally ditch it, but incorporate elements of the dink and dunk and elements of the run game that we see because those had success. Give yourself some options. What do you think about the organization failing Tua and Tyreek's absence being a factor in what we see from Tua?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill's absence is definitely a factor. You've seen the success that they've had together, 2022, 2023, 1,800 or 1,799 receiving yards for Tyreek in 23. So you're vying for 2K that season, then that's not just happenstance that happens. And then you lose him, and obviously it's going to create a challenge. Within that, the Dolphins found the running game, and then Mike McDaniel finally found how he can stick with the run and find success. I just don't see Tyreek Hill coming back now off this injury when we already kind of figured his days were numbered, and this was his last season in Miami. But it's definitely a factor for Tua's play in how you assess Tua. And one of the reasons why maybe if they don't move off of him, then it would be probably with that caveat of, okay, we understand you didn't have Tyreek Hill for this season when you did have him before. But remember, Tua was gifted one of the best situations that a quarterback could ask for, and having a Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw to for those seasons. So, when you compare him to other quarterbacks in the league, then you certainly have to keep that in mind. Is the situation he had? Granted, a lot of weak offensive lines, pass protection, oftentimes not there, but it's a factor for sure.
What's up to Phil Montgomery? What's up to Jack Thompson? What's up to Berserker Finn? Who else have I got in here that I haven't shouted out to yet? David. Let's see. Who else is on? We got a Happy Evelyn.
I thought you were
Sam
talking to me. but you don't call me David. You call me Furones.
I don't. Right. You can count the times I've called you David on one hand. I think I always call you Furones. There's a lot of anti-Steve Ross commentary on here. David says Ross is a bad owner. Phil Montgomery, Ross, let's hire an on-the-job training coach for a team that's built to compete. What could go wrong? Happy Evelyn, Ross needs a lobotomy. Also adding Ross, worst owner in sports. I'll say this, Furones. I was giving Steve Ross a lot of leeway because what I used to always say, he does two of the things you want from your owner. He lets the football people make football decisions, and he opens his wallet. As I've talked to people, I'm starting to become convinced that the meddling from the standpoint of losing the draft picks, okay, that's a factor. I don't think that's a big factor. What I think is a bigger factor is his inability to hire the right people. And that really is the biggest job of an owner, right? Mickey Arison wouldn't be a great owner if he didn't find Pat Riley, right? And if we go up to the Panthers, Vinny Viola wouldn't be a great owner if he didn't find, what is their GM's name? It's
Bill Zito.
Bill Zito, right. Exactly. Yeah. So, what do you think is Steve Ross's role in this? As we see, some of the anti-Steve Ross commentary come in here on the chat.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that. He is a willing spender and lets the football minds make football decisions. But end of the day, then you have to be the one that hires the right people for these jobs. So he's gone through multiple coaches, all of them lasting like an average of 4 seasons. This is 4 for McDaniel right now, and who knows if he'll be back or not. I think probably the impulse is that he does. He likes McDaniel and believes in him. Enjoyed that 4-game winning streak, and he's going by process, which I think he believes has been the right one down the stretch. In why I'd lean toward that Ross will bring back McDaniel. We were always saying it should be a clean break. If Greer and McDaniel go down, they go down together. So opted not to go that route. Now there's going to be a GM decision after firing Chris Greer. So that's now another hire that Ross is going to make the decision. I think he's got a good person in place in interim GM Champ Kelly. And if you are bringing back McDaniel, is it with like this 1 year of, all right, McDaniel, you get this season. We see how it goes. But it's on a short leash. And then Champ Kelly, it's also, you have a chance to build this offseason. And it's also like, all right, interim GM, you shed the interim label, but you have a chance to really be the guy and build this roster and see what you do with 2026 to then determine if that marriage goes or continues into the future, or if then it's just like a clean break after that. And then that's when you go new GM, new coach, new everything. Or unless if it's new GM this offseason. And then you have your 1 year of McDaniel with the Tua contract, and you let that play out. So then it's an easier break after the 2026 season. And then that's when that new GM then brings in his own guy. There's a lot of different ways it could all go. So, and one of those being, if we're talking about Tua in this segment, is, all right, you move off of Tua. Now you pay the big dead cap hit. It's going to make it difficult to then bring in a veteran quarterback, but you either hope another reclamation project, if it's a Zach Wilson, if it's someone of the mold of like Sam Darnold has done, that you can build with this run game in McDaniel's system and have some other quarterback flourish that could save everyone, or it's just it is Tua again, and then that's when the clean break happens in 2026 if it doesn't go the way the Dolphins hope that season. So there's a lot of different ways it could all go, and at the heart of it is Stephen Ross's decision making. So it'll be on him once more.
As we say, Furones, there's an ocean of possibilities, right?
Let's dive in.
That's it.
We're gonna dive in. We're gonna dive in.
Yeah, we are. All right, Furones, let's put a bow on this, and we'll do it with this topic. Should the Dolphins make the playoffs in 2026? And, if Mike McDaniel and Tua come back, what other goal are you going to have, right? I mean, even if you say it's a rebuild on the fly or whatever, nobody wants to see McDaniel and Tua. Nobody has the patience for them to go through a 7-win season. They're too good for that. So, when we talk about expectations for 2026, I'll start it off with this. As I mentioned, if Mike McDaniel comes back, Steve Ross or somebody, Champ Kelly, should insist that big play passing offense is done. You've got to incorporate other elements into your offense to give your team the best chance to succeed. So I would say if Tua and Mike McDaniel are back, yeah, I'm expecting a playoff berth. If they're not back, then the rebuild is on and whatever happens, happens. But yeah, if those two guys are back, there's no compromise. You should make the playoffs, or that should be your goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you don't just accept, all right, McDaniel and Tua run it back again, and it's 3 consecutive years without a playoff berth even. When you started this whole thing already in the playoffs, vying to venture into the playoff win level and get into the divisional round, get into those final 8 teams. You haven't accomplished that since 2000. We're still here. You peaked at a first round exit by multiple scores as a number 6 seed, going down to the Kansas City Chiefs because you couldn't hold the 3-game lead in the division with 5 weeks remaining. Like, that was the peak. That was the peak of this tenure. It would be. I mean, as disappointing as this is right now, then it would just be even more so. And we knew it would be tougher. We knew 2024 when they lost Christian Wilkins and Rob Hunt, Andrew Van Ginkel, Brandon Jones, etc. That it would be difficult. They found some pieces like Jordan Brooks and Aaron Brewer, who have been tremendous finds for this team. But that's kind of only keeping them afloat into this in the hunt category, that they're not good enough to really compete, but they're not bad enough where they're going to be playing for the number 1 pick. I mean, we thought they would when they were 1-6 and 2-7 and firing Chris Greer, but then they rattled off some wins like we expected they could. I had them as a 9-8 team this season, kind of like just missing the playoffs in week 18 again. That was what I figured, but it's something where it would be a colossal failure if indeed they come back and miss the playoffs again, and then at that point, then it's a no-brainer. We're here; it's still a discussion this season, but due in large part to a lot of the previous mistakes of extending Mike McDaniel off of that 2023 season, because you gave Tua Tagovailoa that big contract extension that now your hands are tied because of. I think if you move on from Tua, then you're probably signaling just complete rebuild. Like, that's when you go with the new GM, new coach. You have a season where, so what if you're tied up with that dead cap hit? You're not planning on winning that season. It's build with the young core that you have already, probably extending Devon Achane as part of that. Your rookie class of 2025. Build on that with a 2026 rookie class, and then you see where that takes you going forward with probably a high pick that next season. But aside from that, if they come back, then it's playoffs or bust, and then it's all got to go get blown up if they fall short of that.
What's up to Danny Martin? I think I said what's up to Sam Kavasin. What's up to Karen's 9500? It's D. Griff. What's going on? Broward Dolphins. What's up? Good to see you. There's a couple of people in here that are talking Mike Tomlin, Furones, and I'm trying to get back to the exact ones here. But because I want to give them some credit here. Danny Martin, trade for Mike Tomlin. Sam Kavasin. This I don't like reading cruel ones, but this is kind of funny. Mike Tomlin available soon, but we will keep Mark Anthony on steroids. That's I guess that's the same as capri pants, right? What do you think of? What do you think about? I kind of like it, actually. What do you think about a coaching change, and if there is one? Do the Dolphins, because we're talking about expectations for 2026, do the Dolphins have to go with a proven head coach, or can you do this first-time head coach one more time? I'm for proven head coach.
Yeah, I'm for, because the Dolphins have done that every single time.
Yes.
And and this is also part of why I think Ross wants to make the McDaniel thing work, because I think he sees him as more advanced than the others, like a better people person than Brian Flores, like that he is this offensive guru that can do it with the right situation. So that's just that's the vibe I feel from him, and that not that I'm not speaking to Stephen Ross and hearing this directly from him, but just kind of what I feel he probably is feeling himself. So. That's why I think he wants to make it work. But if not, then I think you got to be done with these first-time head coaches, like Adam Gase when you brought him in, and then Brian Flores was the same way. Mike McDaniel, Joe Philbin, going back to that. Find someone that's a proven winner. Like I don't know, would you go Mike McCarthy at that point? Who would be some other names that that you throw into that mix. Mike McCarthy has done it on big stages, and yeah.
Arthur Smith has been a head coach. Cliff Kingsbury has been a head coach. I don't think
Cliff
John
Kingsbury
Harbaugh is going to be available. No, he's not. He's not. Yeah, but Dave, I mean, how proven was Dave Wanstead? He was proven to be Jimmy Johnson's buddy, but his years in Chicago weren't that great. But he had been a head coach, and he showed you some success. For the record, I don't think Tomlin's going to be available, but it's a good name to have on the list. Yeah. So,
right. I mean, you might have settled that by losing this game to the Steelers. Exactly. Hey, we were there at Acrisure Stadium, formerly known as Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. We weren't hearing any "Fire Mike Tomlin" chants. Let's be clear.
No, we were not.
No. I know that's a thing.
We were not.
That's developed in Pittsburgh because they've got a history of expecting playoff wins. Unlike the Dolphins, who now you've grown to not expect them over a quarter century, even though they once did have those expectations back when it was the team moving on from Dave Wanstead and all that, and Jimmy Johnson's, back in those days, there was an expectation from the Shula years of expecting playoff wins. That's still the Steelers, and they haven't gotten him out under Mike Tomlin. If he became available, the Dolphins would have to hire him in a heartbeat. But I know some people don't like that he also wants the roster management to be at his fingertips as well, and he hasn't built strong rosters with the Steelers, so I understand that part of it too.
What's up to JD, the great one? Nate G checking in from Monterey Bay. Diang. What's up? True Blazer back in the house. Furones, we'll wrap it up on this one. When we talk about a rebuild, because somebody on here said, give me the rebuild now, and I lost who it was. Do they have too much talent for a full like what does a full rebuild look like? Because you will still have Patrick Paul and Austin Jackson and Aaron Brewer and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane and Zach Sealer and Jordan Brooks, possibly Bradley Chubb, Minkah Fitzpatrick. You're gonna have some talent. You're at worst you're probably gonna have 7-win talent. Can you do a full rebuild? Like, what would that look like? Do you have to start shipping off pieces to get draft picks like they did before? Do you rebuild on the fly? How would you characterize it? How would you visualize it?
Yeah, I could see it going that way. Of if you are deciding to cut Tua, then you are not building a competitive roster with that dead cap hit, without a quarterback. Because you can't. If you were saying, okay, we are just a veteran quarterback signing away. Like if you were able to find this next year's Sam Darnold is the one that we always say. If it was like Aaron Rodgers getting picked up by the Steelers, or what the Jets try to do with Aaron Rodgers, a move like that, then you still need the money to then pay that quarterback to come in. So the Dolphins wouldn't have that at their disposal. So their hands are really tied because of that extension. So if you move on from Tua, then the best route is just you go to this rebuild, which, it might mean something. Now, you keep some pieces that you want to keep for the future. I mean, this is, I think, part of the reason why Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane, they were not moved at the trade deadline. Like, I would want Devon Achane to be my running back for this next stage and be, maybe one of the bright spots in what would otherwise be a down season, like the Jets have had with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. Ultimately, they had to move on from Gardner and Quinnen Williams. They still got Breece Hall there. Still have like Will McDonald there. And still have Garrett Wilson, although he's been injured. But and now they're going to have a high draft pick and multiple first-round picks because they've moved off some of these guys. Which the Dolphins' assets, I don't think they're netting you back first-round picks either. So it's a matter of you're not getting that in return, so you can't just go the route of what the Jets are trying to do. If it's move on from Tua, then it's accumulate draft picks. It's a total rebuild. Just you got to start brand new. It's a new GM that's going to try to build off the young core that you have, keep some pieces. I think Achane would be a home run piece in any system, and then figure out which ones you can move for draft picks that are beneficial for the betterment of the future of the roster. And maybe you're having a really down 2026 season with eyes set on a high draft pick for that 20. Sorry, it would be the 27 draft at that point.
Yeah. All right, we're going to end it there, Furones, but I will say this: whether the Dolphins do a total rebuild on the fly, or whether they try to keep this thing going with McDaniel and Tua, continue to build the trenches. Continue what you've started in the draft the last 2 years with Chop, Patrick Paul, Kenneth Grant, and Jonas Abai-Naya. It's always been it's been a Dolphins weakness for 10, 12 years. So continue to go that route. You can't go wrong doing that. Then you get your quarterback in a year, 2 years, and it's plug and play. Ideally. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. Thanks for checking in. We will check in with you next week, Tuesday at noon. Have a safe flight, Furones. I will see you tomorrow. We'll see you guys next week.